October 19th, 2023, and it's the beginning of our sustainability meeting for this month. Before we do roll call, we already received a message from Dr. Carol Mickett that she's not able to be here. So can we have a motion to excuse her absence?
I make a motion to excuse Dr. Carol Mickett.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
So can we get a roll call?
Yes.
Thank you.
Chairperson Menino,
Here.
Member Carol Mickett, Member Taylor Mandalou, Member Dory Larson,
Here.
Member Karen Gallagher. Oh, no. We need to take that one off. Alternate member Robin Sanger
Here.
and alternate Jennifer Bracey is not here. Okay, we have a quorum.
Okay, has everyone had a chance to review the minutes from last month?
Yes.
Okay. And do you have any amendments that you would make to this?
No.
To the okay, can we have a motion to approve them? Yeah.
Move to approve the minutes for September 21st, 2023.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Thank you. And it does not appear that we have anybody from the public, but I say every month, everyone is welcome. We would love to have members from the public come to this meeting and to give input and to participate in the future of sustainability for Tarpon Springs.
Absolutely.
So tonight we have a discussion, Patricia McNeese on the Adaptation and Resiliency Plan update.
Yes.
Thank you for being with us.
You're welcome. Pat McNeese. I'm the planning supervisor with the Planning and Zoning Department here at Tarpon Springs, and we have been working on an adaptation and resiliency plan focused on the historic district, the city's historic district, and Greektown. Been working on this for over a year, so we have a final draft, which I've handed you out a hard copy to kind of flip through as we talk. I'm going to ask for those back when we're done, the digital you've got. And I'm just going to be using those to present to a couple of different boards. You're the first, so this is just hitting the streets at your meeting. So this is a draft plan, and the final will be posted at some point once it's approved. And I hope you appreciate that we use the various recycled binders that sit up here. Nobody wants to use them. Yeah. Okay, so basically this project was an assessment of historical resource assets built before 1976. So a historical resource, basically a building or a structure. That's what these architectural historians like to call those, as a resource. Okay. The cutoff year of 1976 was chosen because it predates basically flood insurance and widespread application of floodplain management and floodplain rules. And that is consistent with what Pinellas County is doing. So we are working with them on a lot of this. The study and plan included a characterization of the primary hazards. Those are basically flood and wind. We'll go over those in a minute. Or water and wind hazards. Asset risk exposure analysis was done by structural types, geographic area, and basically, and some neighborhood analysis. And that's just the exposure of these resources to the risk, how much risk there is, et cetera. We have a pretty good section describing what the completed and ongoing and initiated programs, studies, and practices are around these issues, these hazard issues, really citywide and some county. And then we had a pretty good community engagement process with this study. There was a lot of interest. We had good attendance at workshops, good response to the survey. And then in this document also is a plan with a vision statement, goals, objectives, and action items. And then we have a section at the end that follows federal guidance on adaptation and resiliency alternatives, and kind of puts that into the Tarpon context. The document has some appendices with maps, hurricane history of the city, asset spreadsheets, and public survey results. The asset spreadsheet appendix is not in your printed copy you have right now. It is in a digital. It's like over 100 pages of just spreadsheets. We didn't print that for these draft documents. And I should point out in the map, so we concentrated on two main areas. And I don't know if you can see that or not, but the historic district, which is our established historic district, operated under Article 7 of our Land Development Code. It's got a set of guidelines and procedures, and it's overseen by our Heritage Preservation Board. And then a Greektown National District, that is a National Register District that's not locally designated, but it does carry some advantages for with respect to FEMA codes and that sort of thing. Those are the two areas that we were asked to look at, or that we proposed to look at. We got a state grant to complete this project. And when we did that, the board asked us to take a preliminary look at Union Academy. So that's the geographic area of Union Academy that we covered. So again, masonry and wood frame structures primarily in the designated districts, national and local. We have contributing structures and non-contributing to the districts. That's all explained in the document. Part 1 has all those community descriptions, tells what those are, and that's how this is tabbed. Tells what those communities are composed of, the types of structures, the time periods, and all that information. And then part 2 has the hazard profiles. So for high water events, we looked at rainfall and nuisance flooding, or what some people call sunny day tidal flooding. We looked at storm surge flooding from tropical storms and frontal systems, and then we looked at long-term sea level rise. And then high wind events, we also looked at the impacts of those throughout these districts. Part 2 also has, you can't really see it on here, but it's got a fold-out spreadsheet there that kind of summarizes all of the ongoing efforts, programs, including sustainability, strategic plan, comprehensive plan, down to things like the seawall master plan, the stormwater plan, the vulnerability assessment that you guys are working on. All that is summarized here, and then there's different information about it, and then over on the right we kind of relate that, see how those relate and apply to different parts of the historic districts. Part 3 is the risk exposure. So part 3 concentrates pretty much mainly on Greektown and Historic District, and gives some detail on the risk exposure to flooding in this case. So we have 58% of these structures located in the 100-year floodplain. That's pre-1976 structures for both Greektown and Historic. There's a total of 602. And then there are lesser amounts in the 500-year floodplain and outside the floodplain. So we have 351 structures pre-1976, and 293 of those are contributing at this time. I will say we do have a state grant, and we're going to be starting on updating the historic district survey, historical, structural, architectural survey, and same with the Greektown. So we're going to be doing that as well. I'll talk about Union Academy in a minute, but we're working on that too. This just illustrates, Appendix A has several maps, and these are a couple of the maps. Trying to put them on a slide was kind of difficult to see, but for example, this is the coastal high hazard area on the left-hand side. 50% of our structures are in that area, pre-1976 structures. And coastal high hazard represents the Category 1 surge, expected surge from a Category 1 hurricane making landfall. I have always liked this map. It's pretty darn accurate. It's pretty, it gets revised every 4 or 5 years or so. And it's a pretty good map for looking at your property and trying to figure out, are you going to be impacted in a storm? It's good map to start with. And the FEMA flood zones on the other two maps, you've got the blue is the 100-year and the green is the 500-year. And then, if it's not shaded, it's outside the floodplain. Those are pretty close to high hazard. They have a little bit more coverage, but that's what those are. We did, in Part 3, looked at some neighborhood areas. Couple of examples. This one's what I guess we call the canal, because there's a canal behind those trees there, as you all know, and on U.S. Geological Survey maps, it's labeled the canal. So that's what we called it. This is not real good resolution, but this is the 1883 plat map. And of course, when you blow it up, you can't really read it. But this kind of illustrates some of the reason we have issues. So this whole area was subjected to dredge and fill, as you would probably guess. But before that, we had a couple of lakes and some wetlands and a connection to Spring Bayou. Now we don't have really any of that. We have a remaining canal that is basically cut off. This picture was taken in the month of June on a full moon tide. So what you've got is, tides coming up through the storm sewer system and spreading out. Water kind of likes to go where it used to go, and that's what's happening here. And that location is right about where that red circle is. So that was one problem area we looked at for neighborhood approach. What's called the fruit salad or fruit bowl area is another. So this area was filled and bulkheaded wetlands and submerged lands to create this neighborhood, which is about, a lot of it's less than 4 feet above sea level. There is a contour map in your maps appendix of some of that, and that shows the alteration in that area. And that area was impacted by Hurricane Idalia, and we'll see that in a minute. Wind exposure, the entire city is all in what's called the 145 mile per hour windborne debris region in Florida Building Code. So all your new buildings have to be built to that standard or higher. So really, wind impacts everything in these districts, and really citywide. It's equally vulnerable to wind impacts. For historic structures, the messages we kind of came away with were just looking at structural loading, so lateral loads, connection to the foundation. Anytime we're doing anything to a historical structure, anything major, just looking at whether there are and what there are in the way of load paths in a building, because they don't always have that reinforcement like they do today. So that was one. And then the other big message was covering openings. And in historical buildings, I really feel strongly that that means shutters. You know, we have lots of requests, and that information's in here too. We've covered certificates of approval from HPB. I think I've got it in here since 2008 or 9, something like that. You know, how much we get requests for replace windows with the impact windows, which is something we do get a lot. So we do talk about the option of shutters in this document. Like I say, the community engagement was well attended. We got a lot of feedback. The public survey detail results are in the Appendix D of the document. One big thing we wanted to get out of this and out of the study and out of community engagement is critical historical assets. So the Resilient Florida program that was passed, I think 2021, that created that program and provided a lot of funding for projects. We've been applying every year for long-term sea level rise adaptation projects. One of the things it lists is as worthy of protection and funding is critical historical and cultural assets. It doesn't really define it. Some people are kind of waiting. I'm not sure what rulemaking is on this, but last time I looked, it was still underway. Some people are waiting for them to define it. We kind of felt with this study, we're not going to wait for them to define it. We're just going to define it ourselves. And we defined it as located in the 100-year floodplain, and then either publicly owned, having a historic district status, or ranked of high importance by the public. So in this process, we had both districts ranked of high importance by the public. They also called out the Sponge Docks commercial, you know, where the boats are and that, and they called out Craig Park. And then we also had Union Academy Family Center, the CAP Center, is in the 100-year floodplain, or at least a good portion of it is. That's publicly owned, so that made the list. So this is our list of critical historical assets that we can point to in future funding requests. Hey, we went to the public, we did this study. Here's, you know, when we're doing neighborhood protections, we're not only trying to raise the seawall, we're trying to protect a historic neighborhood. Part 5 of the document has basically the plan. We've got a vision statement there and 4 goals. Many of these items, the action items that are under those goals are underway already. So we're getting a good start with those. And these all align with the other cities' other planning documents as well. And then the last part of the document is, like I said, following federal guidance. The federal, programs have lots of different guidelines, publications that you can use on specific parts of buildings. Right down to how to repair your window sash, and they got a gazillion informational documents. But this one is an overview of how you can adapt structures to flooding or make them more resilient. And just a couple of examples. There's a lot of illustrations there in the document, but a couple of examples include temporary measures. So, of course, everybody knows about sandbags, which are kind of a stopgap or a slowdown. But for temporary measures, this document doesn't really talk about that kind of stuff. Talks about actual, structural things you can do. Flood wrap and floodgates are things you can buy, apply to a building without greatly affecting the kind of the historical fabric, whatever it is, brick, wood, that sort of thing, when you go to do cleanup later. So there's those. There are landscape adaptations for above and below ground, because if you do have a surge, you're going to get erosion, you're going to get, issues maybe with your below ground infrastructure. There's a lot of things to think about. Water backing up into your house or, through the plumbing or whatever. One thing you have to be careful here, of course, is how what you do affects your neighbor. So, and just as an example, we have a lot of site walls around the city. You could, join with your neighbors, take a neighborhood approach to extend site walls, do, flood doors, and it's not going to prevent a huge surge, but it may keep water in the street or away from your home long enough for the water to go back down and not enter under in the home. Elevating a building, this is a pretty good example of an elevated building with a kind of a low rise, low angled staircase and nice foundation. This one on the right is one I always like to look at. That's the Edward Jones office, and that was moved from where the Walgreens is right now. So it was moved out of a flood zone. I don't know that was the primary purpose of moving it. I think it was just to let the Walgreens go there, and they wanted to save the building. But this still illustrates a nice treatment of the building. They elevated it a little bit, even though it's not in a flood zone. Nice low-rise steps, and then they used shrubs and lattice to kind of soften that foundation, that elevation. We also looked, like I said, at longer-term sea level rise. This is part of the requirement in the Florida Resilient Florida Act, that we look at two scenarios for that NOAA puts out for sea level rise: intermediate low and intermediate high. And the full range is like from just under a foot of sea level rise to 3.5 feet, like I've got here, somewhere around there. So there's a range of projections, but we just put a couple of maps in the document showing 2 and 3 feet of sea level rise, what that high tide looks like. And that is a depiction of what they call mean higher high water, which is the higher of the two high tides of the day. That would be kind of where the water would be expected to kind of spread out and inundate. So that's what that illustrates, and then we give a couple of examples of whole neighborhood approaches. And one is the sponge docks, the other is the fruit salad area. The city is already kind of working on a study in engineering they just had at the Board of Commissioners probably 2 or 3 meetings ago of how to deal with long-term flood prevention here for water entering the neighborhood or significant water. And then down at the docks, we do have stormwater projects underway. We put in the backflow prevention valves. We've got some phase 2 coming. There's a vault system coming, so those are being worked on as well. So those are the longer-term projects that we discuss in the document. The Union Academy neighborhood, like I say, we took a preliminary look at it. Didn't do a lot of detailed research on that. We're just coming up to the end of a concurrent project that's a separate project that actually Caroline's working on under a federal grant where we did a cultural, they're about to wrap up a cultural resource survey there. This basically illustrates, okay, so it shows about 18% in the flood hazard area in the 100-year floodplain for parcels. Doesn't sound like a lot, but one of the things to look at in the future here is going to be what somebody might call climate gentrification, where this property looks more and more attractive to people because it's above and outside the floodplain, and you start losing your resources. They get bulldozed to make way for a new house or, a different type of house. So that's something that we probably need to just look at and see if that's a concern and what we might do on that. So again, this project was covered by a state grant, and we worked with the University of Florida on this project. They did a lot of the GIS and the spreadsheets and the characterization of the historic resources. And I just added today a quick slide, which I should probably work on. It's not as visible as I'd like, but you'll notice if you look at Appendix B, the hurricane history, it doesn't have Hurricane Idalia on it. But, the biggest hurricane, and it's mentioned and described in there, that's really affected Tarpon Springs was the 1921 Tarpon-Tampa storm, the one that cut Caladesi and Honeymoon Island in two. That was the big one. Okay, so that was a Category 3, I think. So that's in there, and that's discussed specifically in there. But Idalia was a Hurricane 3, Category 3 going by, and it was about, and I just pulled this today, so I'm not sure the exact numbers. I just pulled it off the some internet source, but it's pretty close. I heard, 120 offshore, 130 offshore at the center. Moving 18 miles per hour. So it went by, and we did get a surge, but it was not a direct or, directional type of hit. So, of course, we do, and Tommy and I were both in the EOC during this one. Yeah, so we got the Craig Park camera worked the whole time. So I think the docks camera went out, and so we got to watch the water go back down there. But then immediately following that, you do the damage assessment. They went out, and this is pretty much the final map from the initial damage assessment. So we had 47 structures in the historic district, and damage assessment is restricted to residential. We don't do the immediate damage assessment on non-residential structures. So we had 47 structures on the list, 7 major, 35 minor, and then 5 affected. So that kind of gives you an idea, and I overlaid the coastal high hazard area. So even though this thing was pretty far offshore and not a direct hit, that's where those structures are. They're in a high hazard area. Your high spines of land, like down at Greektown, is there's some spots up to about 20 feet above sea level. That's a hill. Everybody drives down there knows. Those are outside the flood area, but you can see if you live there why they're in an evac zone A or B, because nobody's going to be able to get to you. And we did have that problem during the storm with some people that didn't leave, during or soon after the storm. So, but this kind of shows where that water went and all the structures that were already affected in the historic district. So with that, take any questions, or that link to the document will stay up until I'm going to be going to the Heritage Board, and I assume the Board of Commissioners at some point soon. And until it's adopted, we'll be putting it on the website somewhere. Not sure where. Are there any questions or comments or input on this?
Yeah, Pat, on that map, what are the green dots?
Oh, all I did was I took this GIS coverage. I actually just got it today from the county. Shows all the structures in the county that were affected, minor or major. I just called out the ones in the historic district, so the rest are just more affected structures.
They're affected, but they're not in the district.
Right.
Okay, thanks.
Okay. All right, well, thank you.
Thank you.
Before we move on to the next agenda item, do you have any questions or comments for Pat or Caroline while they're here?
I do. I just wonder, like, how, so the project summary, so you've mapped these areas, you've got some ideas for how to protect them. And then how does this feed into, like, the other plan that they're working on, like the vulnerability assessment and action plan? Like, I get just a better understanding of how they kind of feed together, I guess.
Yeah, and we can maybe both answer this, but my idea, throughout this, and I've been talking with our consultant, is they're doing a vulnerability assessment. They're going to identify infrastructure and different things in the city that need adaptation and what that looks like. My idea is when you bring the historic in, whether the city owns it or not, now we're protecting a city designated area that is now shown to be important. And I'm hoping that steps our grant application up a little bit more to say, hey, not only do they need to raise that road or that seawall, it's going to help protect, that area. So I'm hoping the two studies together can, coordinate, but also back up a grant application. I don't know, things like brick streets or whatever, things like that might be impacted by a flood. It could be if we get money for that or try to, do that, it could help prioritize those or protect those kinds of public assets. But even water, sewer, if at some point there's funds out there and it's shown, sea level rise is going to affect this and we need to replace some of this. And oh, by the way, we've done a study. We have a historic area. It's important. That's kind of what this is about.
Yeah, absolutely. The vulnerability, it was two kind of different scopes, and they do look at things a little bit differently. They're doing similar analysis as far as, what's the future look like for flooding and what's the relative level of risk in different areas. The kind of difference between the two studies is they're looking at kind of different things as far as impacts. Like the vulnerability assessment's citywide, so it is a little bit more focused on critical infrastructure. So it's looking a little bit more heavily at fire stations and police stations and wastewater plant and stormwater infrastructure and evacuation routes and those sorts of things. We do have some community assets in there that aren't directly owned by the city, but like, for example, we specifically listed some of the same things that were in this report, like the sponge docks we called out as a specific, one big asset for us. We didn't break it down the vulnerability assessment to individual building level, but we do know that that's an area that we need to identify for potential action. So that's being considered. So that's kind of the big difference between the two studies is, one's looking at like more building level stuff out in the community and as like a region or a neighborhood, and ours is the vulnerability assessment's a little bit more focused on citywide essential services, key areas of cultural heritage, but not at the building level. And we'll definitely take the results that Pat's put together and consider those in the vulnerability assessment. The status on the vulnerability assessment right now is we've kind of completed, they're about a step ahead of us, I think. That we've completed a lot of the mapping and the flood analysis and all the modeling, and we're to the point where we've got a bunch of results, and now we're considering how to interpret that and prioritize and what's most critical and working on future actions and outcomes. But the results of that will definitely be rolled in. And to Pat's point, I think probably the most important thing for some folks, and maybe for myself, is having the vulnerability assessment complete is a requirement for future grant applications for Resilient Florida dollars. So having that Resilient Florida or the vulnerability assessment and action plan completed, not only will it provide us some direction as far as like what do we need to protect first, you know, do we start with Whitcomb Bayou? Do we start with the sponge docks? Do we start with protecting utility infrastructure? You know, we'll have to pick and choose what's going to happen first and in what order as funding becomes available. But having that study done unlocks our ability to apply for future project funding to build stuff through the state. So we'll be looking at things and seeing, you know, what we can do to protect the widest areas possible for the least amount of dollars, and what's a smart level of risk to assume, and you know what's most protective. But yeah, it's going to be key for funding, and I think having
Yeah.
the historic district too will be really helpful for pulling in other funding sources.
Yeah, and plus, as technical assistants, we meet regularly with the county on the historic. We're kind of in a working group. County envisions a county database, GIS database that we can all use. That's a resource and a cost that we can take advantage of to analyze these pre-flood insurance structures. There's a lot of them countywide, so there's that. And then we have, in some of the goals, things like trying to get education, maybe doing a couple pilot demonstration on a couple of houses if we find a willing owner, you know, things like that. So it goes down to that level, but it's also, you know, of use to the city for.
So who are the experts that this ultimately gets presented to in order to come up with major solutions? I mean, and I understand that we had, there were some illustrations of temporary protections for properties, for homes, and I'm just curious if they're, you know, it's kind of unpredictable. We're in new territory. It's uncharted pretty much with the amount of change that we're undergoing. So who are the pros that will look at this and give advice on how we can deal with it? I mean, does Florida ever consult, you know, areas that worldwide where they've experienced that level of flooding? Let's say like Amsterdam or Venice, or, I mean, what are their,
Yeah, and that's
will
one.
we have to look at
Right.
something that's really major in order to protect our assets in the future?
Yeah, that's one thing I think we mentioned in the document when you're talking about, you know, raising an area or protecting an area, is most people think, Venice or Holland and that sort of thing.
Or Miami Beach.
Or what? Yeah.
Or Miami Beach.
Yeah, and I give an example. We did provide a link in there of an example. Now I'm going to forget. It's a town in Maryland. I think it's Endicott. It's in here, of where the old town was built over part of the creek, and they had several flooding, and they began to some of it was commercial, some residential. Modify buildings, so do some elevation of interior, you know. But then they began to modify the basements and basically restore tunnel or restore a flood way for the water to go under and underneath the building. Now, would we ever do that at the docks? I don't know, maybe some kind of tunnel type thing, but those kinds of solutions, we would bring in experts that would know about those kind of things, kind of like your engineering firm that we have doing the vulnerability assessment now. They have access to all that information and the technical know-how.
And how do we find them, and how do we connect to the experts? I mean, do we just, yes. Yeah.
Well, we hire them. If we need to bring
Hire
in,
them,
you know,
but I mean, how would we make our selection? Do they have a track record for success?
Sure. No, I think that's one thing we do. We do have some great consultants already on contract. So the city maintains ongoing engineering contracts with a variety of engineering consultants, and Yeah, we sometimes utilize certain ones for like certain specialized activities. For example, we have Tetra Tech on board, and they do all of our stuff with the RO plant because they designed it, and they're our experts on reverse osmosis. And we've got some other folks that have stormwater expertise. And so when we need to do a big study like this or make determinations on like future action items and path forward on how to hit these different focus areas for flood protection and sea level rise, we can talk to our different firms that we have on contract, and if they've got the expertise, we can put a scope of work together and have them focus on a new project or a new protection mechanism for an area, just like we have done for the Wickham Bayou project.
Yeah, I worked down in Clearwater, and immediately after Idalia, that it was very obvious that going from Dunedin to Clearwater, all along Edgewater,
Yeah.
the waters had flooded up to the people's houses. I mean, you could see kind of a rusty water line. I think it was just the salt water hitting the grass.
Yep.
But I don't know whether they had already done some sort of vulnerability assessment or already had a solution in place, but they started working almost immediately. They're building it up now. I'm just watching it happen. They've taken out the sidewalk, and I've just been watching this process, you know, of a immediate reaction. But there's obviously, I mean, with the tornado that hit last week, there's going to be a lot of surprises that occur, and there's no way to prepare, I don't think, for something like that. You know, I mean, we don't have basements. It was interesting getting, you know, as a child, we got those warnings, but we just listened to the radio. We didn't get them over the phone in the middle of the night.
Didn't wake you up on your iPhone at 1 a.m.
Yeah. Woke me up
Really
twice.
tired.
Yeah. I think that was everybody's reaction. It's like, oh, yeah, it's just another one of these, and you go back to sleep.
Yeah.
But no basement, you know, nothing that you can really do, and who knew, you
Yeah.
know, that it was going to be so impactful. But
Yeah.
anyway, I'm glad we're on track. Thank you very much for the presentation, and you did
Okay, great. Well,
great.
thanks for your
Thank you so
time
much.
and support. Thank you.
And your books.
Sorry, I jumped the gun a little bit earlier, I guess.
Did you say you needed these back?
Oh, yeah, do you want your binders back? I can give them back to you tomorrow if you want. Do
Just
you
take
want
them
them back
now.
tonight? Yeah.
Those, so much nicer than those plastic things, and it's nice.
Okay, thanks.
Thank you.
Thank you, Pat.
Well, Jordan, thank you for giving us an update.
Of course. Can you show me how to do this? Sorry.
Huh?
I almost started crying because I'm like, this stuff is coming.
I know. Yes, it is.
What's going on?
I was just saying, like, I started crying during the presentation. It's coming.
I know.
I don't even know.
There's no preparation that can really happen quickly enough.
Yeah. And then everything else.
Yeah, I wonder how some of the areas in the sponge docks have recovered, because there was a full moon right after the morning.
Yeah, we've got a missing file if you want to take like a couple-minute recess or something like that.
Okay.
IT's going to bring it forward. They've got to pull it in on a flash drive.
5-minute recess here.
Sure.
So relaxing.
These are pictures from my folks' house at Idalia. I'm pulling them up.
Oh, down at,
And
Yep.
where do they live?
They live near Carroll. They live at the end of Doric Court.
Oh,
yeah, Doric Court is that little loop.
It's It's like if you go on Chesapeake and you turn right, that first street. So this is their house, the second story, looking out at Chesapeake. Everything was completely, I mean, you can see how high
Is
up.
it- Yeah, I think your mom posted some things about that too.
Like that's the neighbor's house to the right. They just built this building. They just built that.
It's a mess. Did
This
they have
was
to
the
take
water
out
into the
drywall?
house. So there is no drywall because
Lath,
it's just
lath and
concrete.
plaster?
You have to be building really
That's an old
elevated
house.
homes.
Yeah,
Is
it's
that
Bill
house-
and Helen's,
Yeah, I know, because that's like from
the
thirties,
50s.
fifties?
50s, yeah.
Wow.
But like it went, this is the lanai that's like, that used to be outside that they enclosed. My parents didn't. I don't even think Bill and Helen did.
I don't know if they did or not.
Anyway, that's the mangroves. That's the top of the mangroves. You see how high the water is. Like this is a foot down and then a step up and it went here and then it went, this is another inch or two here and it went into,
Did they have anything that they could do beforehand?
Look at
That
that.
was-
We just didn't know.
Yeah, my folks lost their house during Hurricane Harvey in Houston, and our whole neighborhood flooded. Never, ever, 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 ever flooded before because this drainage project that they were working on, they decided they would save some money and not do it to completion, or it wouldn't have happened. But all the houses in the neighborhood, about 2 feet of water inside the houses, which means mold, drywall. I mean, it's just a mess. Everything, it's ruined.
There's a way to recover. What are they gonna
A lot of
so
people
theirs
built.
wasn't drywall on the inside.
do? Okay.
It's like,
You have to
it's
take all the
concrete
drywall
wall.
out,
Okay,
put in drying
plaster.
fans and
yeah.
drying agents, but then the people who decided to stay built their houses up, took their houses, and they're like,
Ready to go?
Yeah, are you guys ready? I'm sorry.
We are.
break is over, officially.
This.
Okay, so you guys last time had asked for an update, just kind of a get to know you kind of meeting, presentation about my thoughts on the sustainability plan, our way to move forward and that sort of thing. So just giving you a brief kind of overview of what my thoughts are and, you know, my strengths and that sort of thing. So my goal as coordinator, this is something that this is like my personal mission statement, as if you will, of what I generally would like to do in this position. That last bit, generations to come, I mean, that's kind of the goal of sustainability everywhere, is to preserve this so that our children's children's children, you know, can enjoy this and be a part of it. So we are in, we are in,
Sorry.
no, it's okay.
That was my cue.
We are in the action-oriented phase of the sustainability plan. You know, the implementation of the plan, the writing of the plan has all been kind of served to me on a silver platter, if you will. And so my personal strength is actionability. That checklist of items, you just go through and you make sure that you're doing everything, getting it done, all of those items. That's my personal strength. We are hoping to schedule future updates quarterly on the plan with you all, and I'll show you that in a later slide as far as what those updates are going to be formatted like and that sort of thing, so you can have a better idea. Our goals are to focus on the fiscal year goals. So right now, today we'll talk about fiscal year 24, which is just started 1st of October. You know, where this is literally really the best time, kind of, if there was going to be a transition, this was kind of the best time for it. The only, as we're talking about goals in the fiscal year and everything, the only exception and allowance really is going to need to be, you know, if we stumble across funding for a future project, that might reallocate our time a little bit. But that's totally depending on what funding comes across our desks and when, so. Okay. This is a foundation year. A good chunk of these lay the groundwork for the years after. You'll see some similar themes, some similar action items broken down, and so you'll see that all in a minute. So the first one we have is the net zero canopy loss policy. That little blurb is taken directly from the sustainability plan that you all wrote, so it probably looks very familiar. But the two big steps here are just going to be the timeline for the code opening is actually going to be in the spring. I just found out a couple of days ago. And so we're on the P&Z timeline for that. as far as getting that written and that sort of thing. They're building the comp plan and updating it right now. And so as that's coming, you know, they're closing that out. We'll be working on the new code. Part of this as well will be establishing goals and outlines with Shannon, our arborist. I know you all know her very well. This is probably something that's going to have to be on Shannon's timeline as well. She is finishing up phase 1 of a really big grant, the presentation that you all got. And so she's about 2/3 of the way done through that plan. So I'm sorry, that phase. So she's hoping to really hit the ground running with us on this policy in early 2025. This one is the invasive species ordinance. This is a beefy one. There's a lot of different items within an item here. So talking about I need to ID, pest control protocols, the team members, see if there are already organizations that are doing like green pest management, if you will, and those sorts of things. Again, the timeline has been identified with P&Z. And then Shannon is going to have a lot of input on this one as well, and she's already doing really great work on invasive species. I'm hoping to get Doris from Florida Friendly Landscaping to chime in as well and just really help us develop it. It might even be that they have codes that they've already written for other local governments that might be easily adaptable for our purposes. Shannon, PJ, and I have actually, PJ is our grant writer. I'm not sure if you all have met her, but we have already identified a grant to potentially help us with this. And so that would be really useful, maybe some sort of incentivization for locals to remove their invasives and that sort of thing and replace them with a native species or non-invasive. The wetland, stream, and shoreline buffer widths. This one is essentially our first step is just to review what regulations are currently in place that we have, but also that the state requires, and make sure that we're in line with those. I know that Shannon is a specialist in this as well. So talking about consistent themes, Shannon's going to be a really great asset for this and a great subject matter expert for these. And going from there, it really depends on what the regulations look like.
Can I ask a quick question?
Absolutely, yes.
The EPA recently removed federal protections for most of the country's wetlands. So do you know anything about the implications for local governments to maintain some protections?
I've always thought of federal regulations and then state and then local. Federal is the broadest. So even if they've removed protections for something, it doesn't necessarily need to affect us if we have our own ordinances already in place, our own protections already in place. I mean, obviously that's going to have a national impact. But as far as the impact on our local community and our local shorelines, it does not have to impact us if we don't want it. But Tommy has more to say on that, I think.
Yeah, the rule you're talking about is the Waters of the United States rule. That defines what's covered under federal wetlands protections. Basically, the protections didn't change, just what's included in being classified as federal wetlands did change. The good news is that the state of Florida does have wetlands protections that cover basically all the wetlands that can be defined as a wetland based on soils, plants, and hydrology under similar levels of state protection. Mm-hmm. So a lot of wetlands in the state, when they go through, if people are developing a site or trying to do a stormwater improvement or something like that, the state regulations actually come first. So this is really more about determining what gets additional review from the feds, but we do have a pretty strong state level wetlands protections in place that won't be affected.
Mm-hmm. Good. Thank you.
Yeah, next one, please. Thank you.
Can I?
Yeah.
Yeah, so, when the different steps that you're showing.
Yeah.
I can really see a public information shout out there, something that goes out to the public for each one, like with invasive species, to let people know why it's important to bring back native plants, and at the same time, let's look at Florida-friendly lawns and why it's better than a true green that comes and sprays your yard and all that. And integrating public information, because it's like I go to Ace Hardware, people during the rainy season asking for fertilizer. And they say, well, you can't. Why not? I want to fertilize what I want, and it's like, because it ruins everything, I mean, it's like, it's really
Everything.
bad. But then the clerks say, but you can go to Pasco and buy it. It's like, that's not, it's like, no.
Yeah,
So, but I think if people knew better, they would do better.
absolutely.
I just said that. That's so rhyming.
That's awesome.
Know better to do better is one of my favorite little
Really?
phrases.
I
Oh,
must
yeah.
have got that from the ethers from you then.
Yeah,
But anyway,
absolutely.
once people know, then they can do things differently.
Absolutely.
And it's like I was talking to someone and she said that people are putting, this one neighborhood, they're putting out rodent poisons for maybe they have fruit rats or whatever. But they also have active owl nesting. And, that colony in Safety Harbor where the mother owl or the father brought back the thing for the babies to eat and the whole family died. And ospreys and hawks. And, to let people know, this is not the smartest way to go about this. It might be the most convenient and it might be the most, we'll kill it, but that's, you can't kill every fruit rat in the state of Florida because they're pretty resilient and
Absolutely.
seem to hang on. But somehow, even if it's like when we did the thing in the water bill,
That's exactly what I was thinking.
with the shout out,
Need to
like
do
for
that.
a specific thing, it's like, why don't we use fertilizer? And then just put it out there in really strong terms so that people kind of, it's a little wake-up call.
Sure.
But all of these things that you're doing, I think, is just getting it's great for the city to do that, but getting out into public consciousness that this is what we're doing as a city, and you're part of the city, hence ...
Yeah, and I think a part of this, especially this first year and the first maybe couple of years, is talking about the foundational year and years, if you will, is setting these ordinances up. And I believe by, I don't believe in the do as I say, not as I do kind of thing. So as we're setting an example for our local community by our own actions
Right.
here in the city, it also allows us to kind of troubleshoot as we come across things that are causing difficulties, like if we don't have, I'm curious, like the golf course, like it's so green and pretty. How do you do that? Or how, is there a way to do that and make it more environmentally friendly, lessen that impact of fertilizer use and that sort of thing. So I think a big chunk of it is getting these ordinances through, and then going from an education aspect after that. Obviously, I would love to work more closely and host more. I would like to host more Florida-friendly landscaping workshops and that sort of thing. I think that like workshops, especially where people leave with something like applicable and not just like kind of like a more dry kind of presentation, where they're doing something with their hands, they're learning how it can be applicable to them in their lives. I really am a huge fan of that kind of public outreach. I'm not opposed to, I don't know what it takes. I'm not necessarily opposed to, a mailer. Maybe there's a way that we can do that where it's not printed, or it's printed on recyclable recycled paper or something like that. And we can potentially look into all of this. But yes, I do agree that there needs to be some sort of communication to let everyone know what's going on. And with that as well, I'm hoping to really hit the Connect Tarpon sustainability page pretty hard, because we have a pretty decent following, even just as a whole, not just sustainability. So we have that access as well. I was already hoping to do like little monthly updates of like different things around the city that we're doing from a sustainability standpoint. Just do like kind of a little monthly blurb on there, because it's pretty low effort, if you will. It doesn't take a lot of time to take a picture and do a little interview and have a little blurb once a month, and then that way it's just when that's updated, that is automatically sent out and that sort of thing. So we definitely have some in the works. This is really just kind of we got to get off the ground.
Yeah, for sure.
And these are big ones, because especially like looking at the seawall ordinance slide, And I'm actually going to a Living Shoreline / Living Seawall workshop in early November. And so with that, and it's actually geared towards like contractors and construction workers and that sort of thing who are able to like actually make an impact and educate like local people on, hey, you're building a seawall or, you know, whatever. We can help you do this in a better way. There is a better, no better to do better. There is a better way. And so I'm really interested to see that, but I do think we have to get the ordinances kind of
Right.
enacted, and then we can talk about, you know, education and that sort of thing. So go ahead. Oh, yeah, sorry.
Yeah, no, I do just want to point out too regarding the Florida Friendly and the outreach. We have started laying the foundation this year. You might recall last year we did Knowledge and Nibbles, and we did bring in Doris Heisman, the Florida Friendly coordinator from the county, and we've actually hosted. We have hosted Florida Friendly like workshops at the neighborhood level, and we're planning on doing that again. Actually, in the relatively near term, it's become a bit of a hot topic when people have been talking about cost of water, and so we're trying to find ways for folks to use a little less and save a little bit of money as well, and get them the resources they need. So definitely on our mind 100%, and we're starting down that road already.
Excellent.
Yes, absolutely, yes. I'm sorry if I didn't communicate that enough. So the seawall ordinance, again, it's like we're gonna have to review what regulations are currently in place, again, state and local. This is gonna be something that the VAP results are gonna be weigh hugely on, where we focus our efforts and where the recommendations are made. And I think Tommy said that I think the grant is due early next year. So we are gonna have to, kind of bring that in soon. And again, working with P&Z to make sure that ordinance is written appropriately. So let me just make sure. Oh, and yes, a note I had here as well. So the NOAA community-based habitat restoration is a technical they offer technical assistance for communities who are planning seawall ordinances, further protection for shorelines, that sort of thing. So that's something that we can look into as well. I don't know if it was hard to determine if there was any sort of cost for that. But if it's something that they, offer as a complimentary service to local municipalities, it's definitely something I think we should explore. And again, bringing in another subject matter expert, learning what other communities are doing, especially in Florida, is going to be really vital for this, I think. Next one, please. So the climate action plan, I am already exploring funding options with PJ for this. And this is something that regionally is already being explored as well. The Tampa Bay Regional Planning Council has received a grant through the EPA called the Climate Pollution Reduction Grants. And so they're given to the MSA, Metropolitan Statistical Area. And so they got a chunk of funding already that will be kind of filtered down through us. They're going to do their own climate action plan and greenhouse gas reduction targets and that sort of thing. But some of that will hopefully filter down to us, where we have a meeting next week. We're hopefully going to be learning more about that as well. The biggest thing holding us back from starting this is funding at this point. We did have funding written into the fiscal year 24 budget. That was reallocated. Tommy can potentially speak on that. And there might be, I think there might be a possibility in fiscal year 25, if we don't secure funding before that, it's something that we may be able to write into the budget for then as well. So again, this is just a big ticket item, so it's going to take some funding.
You have something to share over there?
Do I have to?
Yes.
No, I mean, everyone knows that this year is very much like a catch-up year for folks, for anything utilizing funding from the Water Sewer Enterprise Fund, which sustainability is a split budget between general fund and Water Sewer Enterprise Fund. And we've had to cancel a lot of, or defer a lot of high-priority projects because we've got a very acute short-term funding deficiency that we're trying to address through the water rates. So unfortunately, that was one thing we evaluated. We worked with Robin at the time, and during the budgetary process, and because there was a decent likelihood that this could be grant funded and there was options out there, this was something we decided to explore. Like, all right, let's see if we can get this grant funded, and if it's not viable to do it grant funded, we can start talking about other funding options the following year. So that's why that decision was made.
You can go to the next slide too. Thank you. So this one I have looped in a little bit with our climate action plan, because I think to really understand like what our target is going to be they're just so interconnected that they're going to be done at probably the exact same time in the same plan. This is something, I have a meeting with ICLEI next week. We're going to talk about targets and tracking and kind of make sure that we are up to date as possible with utilizing ICLEI to the best of our abilities. You know, it's a service that we're paying for, and we want to make sure that we're getting everything out of it that we can. And, you know, also just making sure that when we have the funding for a CAP plan with the greenhouse gas reduction target, that we are ready for it. You know, we have all of the data that we can provide, you know, we're up to date on that. And so that's a big one. And a big chunk of this has already been done by establishing that baseline from 2019. That was done in 2020. So we have a full year, a good baseline to work with. We do have the clean energy connection that we do, the Duke program that we do. So we also have to figure out how that works. Through for our target, like it's basically, it's offsetting some of our carbon emissions, because we have invested in that program through Duke. And it's a wonderful program, and we actually just got approval to increase from 46% up to 59%. So are you guys familiar with the Clean Energy Connect program? I'm getting a couple. Dory.
no.
Little bit.
Essentially, Duke is built. I'm sorry. Go ahead. No, I'm so sorry.
No, I'm saying like
Okay. Duke essentially bought a lot of land in Central Florida,
okay.
and they've built
Right.
high productivity solar fields. And so the
You're
idea
welcome, Duke.
was that they're doing some things. They're making strides. So they're from what I can see, they're doing good work from the programs that I've been able to see so far. So. Yeah, it's a great program, but we have to see how that ties in with our greenhouse gas reduction target. And that we're keeping in this, goes pretty closely with the action item number 19, which is a later action item, which is the 5-year check-ins for our greenhouse gas emissions, and just doing another inventory on that. So this is something that really just ties in with multiple other action items. Next one, please. This is really something, this is going to be a really, really interesting project. We've already reached out to HR about collaboration on this. I'd like to get some sort of feedback somehow from like city employees and find out what's really like important to them, and this is going to help us get just a really talented group of people working here for the city. Not that there isn't already, because I've been blown away. I've genuinely been blown away by the talent that's here for such a small city. And so to continue to do that, but also to make sure that, we are all happy, and, teleworking and carpooling service, and that sort of thing. Organization is something that's going to tie in pretty heavily with sustainability, but also just, general happiness, general happiness level. Happy people make good strides for the environment. So were you going to say something? I'm sorry.
No, I was just
Okay.
thinking about that Denmark study, the happiest people in the world.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
It'd be worth looking at that.
Yes, absolutely. I think this is also something that Tommy feels like really strongly about. And so I think you'll see him loop in a lot on this as well. So I think he's going to be a guiding force for this as well.
Yeah, I do want to just add, this is one of those really neat ones. It's kind of not something that folks typically associate with sustainability, maybe in the general public, but it's an important part of the economic and people side of sustainability. And this also ties in another one with the strategic plan, which we've got a strategic plan action item to focus on employee engagement and retainage, and make sure that we're not doing a lot of sustainable projects if we don't have a sustainable workforce in the city. So I think that's really important.
And there's not going to be time to do those sustainable projects if we're constantly having to recruit, so like, let's make people happy. And I want to work with happy, on a personal note, I want to work with happy people, Okay, you can go to the next one. So this is the format for your quarterly updates. This is something that we'll probably just, I believe, just handle in our meetings, and it'll come as a committee meeting item. So this is, I literally just updated, I threw in an example. That's the first action item. So that's what it's loosely going to look like. But then what's really going to change is the current status. Does that say current status? I'm sorry. Sorry, I cannot see on the computers today. Yeah, so the current status, that's really what's going to be updated regularly. And what I'll probably do is flag something if I haven't made progress or something. The ones that have been made progress on, we'll go ahead and just highlight those in green, just make it easier to just say, oh, this is this, and this is this, and this is this. So just to make that a little easier for you all as well, because there are going to be some things that, we've had to push off, like the CAP plan for funding or whatnot. So yeah, that's what that's going to look like. I just wanted to give you guys a preview of that. If there's any other information that you'd like to see in there, feel free to, communicate that with me. But it's meant to be just a really brief. Anything big is going to come to you guys in these meetings and be presented to you and that sort of thing. This is just to regularly update you on any sort of smaller progress that we've made. I think the next.
Jordan?
Yes, absolutely.
Is this going to be in the website, in the sustainability website, so the public can see as well, or is this more for us to see or to be presented, or?
This is intended for you. I cannot make, I have to figure out what we can and can't post. But this actual document I poached a little bit from our public administration. They do weekly updates because it's such a quick moving area. And so this is that is a possibility, I think. So we'll get back to you on that, but it is a possibility to post this like they do, and just keep the community updated as well. And that way, if people have questions or just are curious of what we're actually doing, it is posted, and that's a great idea. So that's definitely something that we can talk about, I think. Okay. So I'm kind of ending on this slide of public engagement because this is something that you all brought up at the last meeting, but also something that in our pre-meeting meeting, Denise had brought up and wanted to talk about. And so I wanted to kind of have a little bit of a discussion with you all on maybe some ideas. I know that she had specifically mentioned, I want to give you credit for this because I do think it was a great idea, but a sustainability action plan, like launch party almost, and just like a celebration. And, it's something that we can have some educational elements to, but I think it's a great way to get people in the door as far as making those connections, especially for me being so early, on in my role here. You guys haven't established, rapport with folks. I do not. So I'd love to chat about this and see what you guys are thinking. That's the end of my presentation. I wanted to kind of shift to a discussion. But do you have any questions, I'm sorry, before I sit down about anything? I saw Dory taking notes. I'm expecting questions.
So,
Oh, I was right. Okay.
so not questions, but just
Yes.
some comments.
Absolutely, please.
So let me go back. Sorry, I'm like multitasking here.
No, you're totally fine. I can go back up here too, I think.
Regarding the invasive species,
Yeah.
looking at an ordinance, I just emailed you and Tommy both, and if you wouldn't mind sharing out to the rest of the committee.
Absolutely.
There were some model ordinances that were shared like a long time ago. Like we were meeting in the other room over there before we were meeting downstairs before we were here. So like
Yeah, absolutely.
so there's some longitudinal history here. But it's from the Florida Native Plant Society.
Okay.
And it's like model ordinance.
I love those. Yes, absolutely. I like being able to come to these meetings with P&Z and not come completely empty-handed, like, help, I have a problem. And then you come with a solution. That's great.
And then another is I had shared a long time ago. I think it's in the same email, so it's all together.
Okay.
There's an EPA document, Planner's Guide to Wetland Buffers for Local Governments.
So, oh my gosh.
And it's like, it's really cool because it talks about like,
Send it to them so that they can
That's
send
what I
it
was
to
just-
all of us.
yeah,
that's
what I was
Oh,
just asking.
thank you.
I'll forward this to you all tomorrow.
But it's cool because it asks the question, like, what is the function of the wetland, or like, what is the function of the ordinance? Like, what are you trying to do? Are you trying to
Yeah.
like make habitat?
What outcome do you
Like,
want
exactly.
to write the
And
ordinance?
so,
Yeah.
like, you know, obviously, the more aggressive you want to be, the more natural the buffer is going to look. So,
Absolutely. Well, and that's something that I need to learn as well. I want to look at that, but I need to learn how aggressive, we need/want to be, as far as these recommendations for all of the ordinances and that sort of thing. So I know we're pro aggressive with these things. I just don't know what's reasonable either to get it kind of approved and that sort of thing. So
yeah, but it was talking about like by function. So are you trying to buffer sediment? Are you trying to buffer
Oh.
like nitrogen, phosphorus, wildlife? Like, what is it that you're trying to do? It's all in that document. So it's a pretty cool read.
That's a great resource.
And then, yeah, and then I guess we're all going to talk now about like community engagement. So those are the two
Good.
things that I just really
Okay.
wanted to flag.
No, that's awesome. Thank you. I will look for that email and I will send it out to the board as well.
Oh, wait, one more. And I'll just send it along. It's Broward County has got a whole packet on seawall
Okay.
ordinance and what they've done and how they've like put it on their, it's like out for public consumption. It's a whole thing.
That's
So,
awesome.
Living seawalls?
I'm not sure exactly what the details are, but just, I know that they've spent
Yeah.
a lot of time looking at
Yes.
their seawall ordinance.
Yeah.
So I'm sending that along as well.
Yeah, I've talked to a marine biologist recently. She is from the Seattle area, but she is working here now. And she was a really strong proponent of living seawalls because human structures create as much erosion as they try to mitigate a problem. And I think that for green infrastructure, we really need to retain the, working with Mother Nature's systems.
Prioritize natural.
Yes, absolutely, because I think that part of the human problem with the problems that we're having is that, we're kind of outside, we're trying to build our cities, but not really keeping them integrated with the landscape in a way that can prevent flooding naturally.
Absolutely.
Tearing out trees is a horrible thing, but fortunately, we've got the ordinance in place, but
Absolutely. And a great arborist. I mean, really, Shannon is
she's
so great.
passionate. I love that.
She is passionate. She is educated. She is really just an excellent resource for us to have. Because she said the only reason there's no reason to pull down a healthy tree other than safety. And like,
Right.
that's a great mindset for an arborist, for an arborist in a community focusing on maintaining their canopy is.
Yeah.
So.
And this is what Robin was referring to, that we had sent out with our utility bills.
Okay.
It could be on recycled paper, I mean, easily, but I think
do we
that,
offer e-billing? Is that a thing for our utility bills? Like, can you go paperless?
did you know? Did you know? With all of the things that we were talking about the fertilizers during the time, but I think we should be doing this maybe quarterly. If it's possible, if it's financially feasible, we should be doing it quarterly.
We can definitely explore that.
With seasonal input or emphasis for like the rainy season regarding fertilizer, and wildlife
There are
protection when.
so many new residents, they just don't know.
They
just don't
don't.
know. They move here and they love nature, but they don't have a clue
Yeah.
as what that means.
My whole neighborhood has become, pretty much infiltrated from people that are from different areas. The woman across the street planted a big lawn. We were trying to communicate with her about how that was going to be expensive.
Yes.
And she doesn't seem to have a financial problem with that. She wants to have it mowed. She's not even there most of the time, but she's having it mowed and she's having it fertilized and, it would be a lot more practical if it was kind of a Florida lawn, but, you
And-
know, I
and
think
even Florida friendly,
our
I mean, it can be
tastes will
beautiful, it can
change
be,
over time.
Yeah,
know.
absolutely. Oh, I agree.
Well, maybe demonstration gardens or demonstration yards in the neighborhood so people could see.
Sure, people do come and
They
tour
see
our
yours.
yard all the time.
What about you know how they do the house walks in
That's what I
neighborhoods?
was thinking was a home tour.
Yeah, a home tour, but like specifically looking at like we could run with it and make it a whole home tour and see what certain people are doing in their house to make it to lessen their impact, but also just even a landscape specific one and just, you know, look at people's gardens and obviously they're Florida friendly and that sort of thing, but a landscape home tour or anything.
I was thinking that, or also like combining it with like sustainable home tour. So like some people may want to show off their Florida friendly yard. Some people may want to show off their solar panels. Some
Yeah.
people may want to show off their like,
Our cracker house is not sustainable, unfortunately. I wish that I lived in an earth ship, but it wasn't really possible here, but
Yeah.
yes, anybody that has a really great model of a sustainable home, that would be.
Well, that is one strategy that we've used in the past, and that Doris Heisman from the Florida Friendly group at Pinellas County will typically do is sometimes they'll go into a home or into a neighborhood, and they've had success with this to get one neighbor to sign on, do all the Florida Friendly stuff, make the changes. Everyone gets to walk by it every day, they get to see it, and it helps build buy-in for the rest of the community.
That's great.
Yeah.
That's great.
so are we talking still about
Engagement.
ideas for engagement? So I just wanted to share, we just had that collaborative, it was specifically for electric transportation in Savannah with like local governments from all across the region. But the first panel we really like dug into was community engagement.
Oh, nice.
And equitable community engagement because like a lot of the federal grants require Justice 40, meaning that 40% of the benefits go to communities that need it most. And so, and part of that is having authentic community engagement. So you're not just checking the box, but you like,
Yes.
so we were like hearing from like experts, and I've got like a whole list of things. So I don't know if I should just rattle those off right
Please.
now. Okay. So tagging on to existing meetings that are not necessarily related to sustainability, but like other things. And I know that like Robin did this when we like concerts at the beach, things like that, so that we're not asking people to come to an event just about sustainability.
Sure.
Because people may not care, but then they may get enlightened and be like, oh, no, I do care.
Absolutely.
Identifying community, like movers and shakers, like the leaders that could be like propagators to spread more information about what we're doing. Being transparent with community partners and sharing data with community partners, explaining to community partners why their input matters. So like if we're doing surveys or whatever, making sure that we're sharing that with the community so that they understand why it's important and that their opinion is actually going to go somewhere and do something instead of just like wasting their time. Potentially compensating or resourcing community members for their participation. So like having food or having, like we've talked about this, like having gift cards or something like that to try to encourage participation. Having continuous touch points with the community. So like what you're saying, like adding it into the bills, or maybe just having like a weekly sustainability Facebook post or something like that. Like, did you know? And it could be something like pretty easy. And we can all like crowdsource this. Offering online opportunities for engagement, like the bang the table, like you were saying, like that low hanging fruit. And then using digital marketing to advertise things. You can embed it in like video games and things. Like when people are playing Candy Crush, you can like, yeah, did you know that?
No.
Yes, yes, you can.
Did y'all know that?
I don't
Okay.
know anything about video games, so I,
That is one area we've been kind of exploring a little bit lately, is trying to focus on the digital advertising. So we've been kind of leaning into that with like recruitment and stuff like that, actually, like advertising like career fairs and stuff like that on Facebook and doing paid ads that target our local community. But that's kind of a new foray for the city. So, but that's definitely something we're kind of very interested in.
And social media presence is something that like I would like to consider as well. You know, I think it's important. So it's not something that the city is doing a lot of right now. You know, but there are a lot of I don't want to step on toes or anything of people who are currently doing that, but I think it's possible. So we're exploring that right now as well. So, but I still utilizing Connect Tarpon and that sort of thing because we do have a subscriber network as well for that. So I can send out updates and that sort of thing to that listserv that we kind of already have. So I don't want to inundate them too much because that's how you get people to hit unsubscribe. But you know, there's that sweet spot of I haven't heard from them in a while. Oh, look, one just magically appears in my mailbox, and then there's another like, oh my god, another one. So balancing that as well.
I had a question that just slipped right through.
You'll remember it at like 8:30.
Okay.
Well, and feel free to email, you know, like, I don't know if it was for me or for them, but like, it's something that like you can email to me and we could put it on the agenda or.
Well, we did hear, you know, from Robin Reeves that there were some, you know, definite limitations to updating the city website. So I'm wondering if that has changed or whether, I mean, did we get your name on the sustainability page at all yet?
We did, yes.
Okay.
Yes. And that happened quickly. That was like almost immediate. Like, I think she was even, our webmaster was out for the day and I had emailed her and she did it the next morning.
Oh, good.
So it was quick, and I have full control of the sorry, that sounds odd, of the Connect Tarpon page as well. So that when that's done, it's maybe something that I can show you guys and let you know, and we can talk ideas and that sort of thing. But that's where I was planning on doing that little monthly update of just like a little blurb about something that the city is doing that is applicable to more than just the city. So, and go ahead.
Yeah, I think on the website the biggest thing is you know, just the frequency of the updates, and we've had a lot of discussions about that, and we kind of view it as good for like kind of general information, like, hey, this is
Right.
sustainability, this is who you need to reach out to. But for project specific stuff, we do find a lot more success with either social media or workshops or just other forms of engagement. We actually don't drive a lot of traffic to the city websites, individual pages. So
And even the sustainability page redirects you for more information. Go to the Connect Tarpon page. So, and there's, you know, easy capturing for emails and contact information from people who are interested. So there is that as well. So
I was thinking too about, we talked last time about children bringing in the students and so forth, different ages. And I was thinking maybe the after-school programs, a lot of times connecting with schools is challenging because they don't have a lot of extra time to do things like things.
yeah,
But like the Boys and Girls Club after-school program and the Cops and Kids, where they actually have the community garden there, they call it Crops and Kids, Rodney.
that's cute and funny. I
Brian
like it.
Farley and Jamie. Yeah. And if there's already an interest of, you know, it's like, if kids get excited about that we have a sustainability thing going on here
Yes.
and kind of push it for the rest of the family, I think that's a good way to do that.
I believe I believe that I put the bug in the ear of I don't know Jamie's actual title, but I did put the bug in Jamie's ear about potentially collaborating on something in the future.
Cops and Kids?
He
Oh, okay.
Jamie Taylor's over recreation.
Okay,
so
right, right,
he
right,
handles all
right.
of our recreational
Right,
programming.
Jamie Taylor.
Cops and
Yes.
Kids is run through the police department.
Right.
So
but I mean, historically the police department and sustainability have a good working relationship because they did our first FGBC, Florida Green Building Council Green Local Government certification. It was actually done through the police department because there was no, they did the first one in 2008, I think. And so there was no sustainability department at that point, so they did it. So historically, we have a really good relationship. So getting involved in doing the like crops for kids like you're talking about, I mean, I think that's very feasible. So
And I think the Garden Club did a community garden behind the Boys and Girls Club too, but something that already has a tie-in with gardening and so forth, I think would be good.
I'm sorry, could you say again?
The Boys and Girls Club,
there was a garden.
they have a garden that was just built behind there where the basketball courts are.
Yeah, I'd have to look into that.
But anyway, so if there's already interest and the kids are doing gardening or doing things like that to,
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, no, that's a good program we can definitely explore.
Great ideas.
Did you want to talk about a launch party or anything like that, only because it's something that takes a lot of time, and a lot of planning in advance. So if that's something you wanted to talk about, that's fine. If that's something that you want to kind of not talk about, that's fine. And that I just want to make sure that you're like the idea that you had brought as well is being acknowledged.
Are we going to have hard copies at all of the plan for people? Potentially. I mean, what's
mean-
going on with that?
I think
It's on the website, but I really think that we need to have, if we were to do a launch, we'd need to have that for people to look at,
we could even consider like
take home,
yeah, I mean I think that's definitely possible, and we have a printing budget as well. So if we wanted to,
Still have more of the bags, the sustainable Tarpon Springs bags that. So, I mean,
yes.
do we have them so that we could give them out?
yeah, I
So,
think
yeah.
I mean they're there to be given away, I believe. So I mean I think that's definitely something that we can do, and giveaways do get people in the door, to be completely honest. So I definitely think that's a valuable tool.
I think with the transition, we just need to get caught up on inventory, see where we're at with all the existing.
Well, do you want
giveaways.
to brainstorm a little bit about it and maybe talk about it at the next meeting? Because, I mean, we're coming into the holidays right now. I don't see that we'll be able to do anything prior to
well,
that.
something in the spring maybe for.
Right.
It would have to be a spring
Maybe.
thing, but it's probably going to take about 6 months to plan something like this.
Do you think that Earth Day month is potentially a good time?
I know that
Seems to make
Yes.
a lot of sense, and
Yes.
it's
yeah, and that's kind of
far enough
actually
in the future.
I think Tommy and I talked about that as well, and that was a date that really like kind of we're already doing. It's a great piggyback. So yes,
That will probably align. We already have an Earth Day event planned. Like, so that was one thing we were going to do is go through, review all the annual events, see which one might be most beneficial if we're going to do a big outreach or push on getting the sustainability plan out there. And that also will probably tie in nicely to support some of the initiatives that might be a little further along. For example, the comp plan, which is the precursor to doing all the ordinance development, is tentatively looking like the comp plan will be wrapped up sometime in the spring. So it'll either be getting close to done or just finishing up, and that'll launch us into a lot of the ordinance development. So that'll be a good timeline for a lot of outreach on those 4 items that are all the ordinances.
I mean, it seems possible if we have Earth Day right at the library that we could somehow combine, the experience of introducing the plan, have a separate area.
what
But
kind?
I don't know whether that's just overwhelming or too much. I mean, what do you think? You were there last year. There were a lot of people there.
You mean,
I mean,
which one, for the Eco
Earth
Fest?
Day, no, it was Earth
Earth
Day celebration. It was at the library. And I think there were about 200 people that came, and there were a lot of different booths. It
Is
was
that
very
when you were there with the
festive,
car?
and
Yeah.
I mean, that's great
I know
attendance.
it's possible. I mean, I don't know what the limitations or the problems would be with that, but we've got facilities there, and
Yeah, and I guess and this is something that we can all kind of percolate on and discuss maybe later if you wanted. But like what you want it to look like, if you want it to be, a booth there, if you want it to be like an event later in the day, like specifically, what you want that feel to be, that what target audience, I guess, what we're who we're aiming to speak to, and that sort of thing. So I just if you guys can give me a little focus on what you'd like to see there, I will absolutely come up with more ideas as well. So
would you like to think about it for a bit?
Absolutely.
Okay.
I'd like to. I've got an idea.
love it.
I would really like to see more of the businesses engaged in what we're doing.
Absolutely.
So if there is any way to like start doing that networking now and try to like invite businesses that are have sustainable practices or to share and to like promote what they're doing too.
Oh, I love that.
I mean, I'm thinking like some of the restaurants, like if they do like,
They can get a little green certification.
or so, you know what I mean? Because like if they don't do styrofoam, if they do like paper takeout
Right.
stuff, they
They
can like,
recycle. I mean, there's so many businesses that don't.
Yeah.
we've got a lot of, you know what I mean, like businesses that are doing great things. It would be nice to be able to like pull them in to share with the community what they're doing too. That it's not just like what the city's doing, that there's things that are happening.
I know that was one thing that Robin was kind of working on, was some way to acknowledge small businesses. I know it's something we've discussed in the past, so we'll try and, that's something we talked about a little bit, and we'll definitely pick that back up and re-explore those ideas and see what we can come back to you guys with some concepts.
So, and that was one of my, before I knew that was a Robin idea, I had kind of thought of that as well. And as far as the green business, kind of like spotlight, if you will, or an awards program. And I do have on my calendar to go, there's a sustainable business awards, and they call it the green carpet. In it's kind of fun, but it's like, it's supposed to be like a fun night for sustainable professionals and that sort of thing. And they're acknowledging local businesses and local professionals and that sort of thing. So I was gonna go and just kind of get ideas, like you were saying, of like, what are the categories even look like? Like, are they doing honorable mentions, that sort of thing? So, and get an idea. Maybe we could do our own like Tarpon specific evening, kind of like that. And maybe it could be a sustainability plan coupled with like a green business award launch kind of deal. So we could do spotlights this year and maybe launch the green business awards program for the next year and make people aware of that. So that's, I mean, this is all a brainstorm kind of spitballing session, if you will. But I definitely think that's definitely something we should do, is loop in the businesses, and that might give us a little bit of focus too, because they have their own reach. So if it's something where we have something posted on Connect Tarpon, or
Right.
if we are able to, do more social media posting or anything like that, they can share that information, and it widens our reach and that sort of thing. And so we can reach more people if we involve more kind of advocates for us, so, and sustainability, so.
What do you think about going like on a walkabout with Karen Lemons to introduce you to the business owners and like there's some that are
Yes.
right, the crunchy, that are right in that genre.
What?
What?
Oh, was that a granola? Was that a granola reference? Okay, thank you. I've never heard anybody say crunchy. That's great. I love that.
Anyway, but there's there's several businesses around, and she'll know where they are. She'll
Yeah.
know the ones that are doing that, so that'd be fun.
I think she was waiting on me to get, I met her, I was introduced to her. I think she was waiting for me to get settled.
Yeah.
And I will reach out to her, and I will do that.
So
Sorry,
people
taking notes.
meet you and see who you are and just, chat it up and.
That's a great idea.
Are you familiar at all with Green America?
No.
Oh, that,
Yeah, they have a book every year that comes out that has all green businesses. And they have a website, so maybe, I think it's greenamerica.org. But it would be worth looking at that, because they do have programs for awarding green businesses. I mean, at least we could pull ideas from that.
That sounds great. So for my own purposes, I just want to make sure that I am getting, can kind of funnel my energy into like the priority topics for you all. Because we are working on our FGBC recertification, which is probably going to take a lot of manpower between now and the end of the year when the certification is due. And so I just want to make sure I'm channeling exactly what your top goals and that sort of thing. So what I have that we spent the most time on is the kind of utility bill, exploring that a little bit and getting something in there. Sorry, I'm just going to highlight it as I go. And a potential like landscape slash sustainable home tour Does that sound? And that, and then like maybe a launch party or some sort of green business award recognition kind of thing that to tie in with Earth Day. Do you think those are like maybe the top three?
Sounds
that we,
right. And then
okay.
just getting people to know who you are and getting
Yes.
out in the community.
Oh yeah, absolutely. And that has been a huge goal of Tommy and Paul as well. They've been really instrumental in just getting me introductions around and that sort of thing. So Mr. Chatty over here, you know, likes to go around and socialize. So no, it works out perfect. It's great. And I have not met anybody who has not been genuinely excited, you know, like truly. Like I was expecting that their sustainability, you always get some sort of pushback, you know, and I've received a lot of support from, I think, some really surprising corners. So I'm excited.
That's good.
It's a lot. It's really good stuff.
It's good to hear.
Yep.
Okay.
So, items for the next meeting agenda. Oh, okay. Dory.
Sorry, one more thing. Earned media, like if we could get something in the paper about the plan,
Oh, yes.
I think that would, like,
The
introducing
Beacon?
you.
Like a press release thing or a?
Yeah, like a
Oh,
press release to have it in the Beacon, or maybe Tampa Bay Times would pick it up. I don't know, they've got such few reporters, but, you know.
The Beacon's usually pretty open. If you call them up, and they're very open doing city stuff. So we've had a lot of success with that. That's probably very attainable.
Well, and it might be something that if the Beacon ran it, the Tampa Bay Times might pick it up too, you know, and just
A subsidiary, isn't it?
Is
Yeah,
it?
There's just one paper, basically.
I think it is. I mean, I thought I saw that on there, but
Okay.
I think if you just give them a news release.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah,
They're happy to have space to fill
absolutely.
with
That's our experience.
chewy things.
Okay, sorry.
That's great.
All right.
What a
Crunchy.
crunchy, chewy. I must be hungry. We must be all hungry for our nighttime snacks. The next meeting is November 16th. So what,
What would you
You're talking
all?
about items for the next.
yeah, items for the next agenda? Oh, yes. Thank you, Dory.
So I think this time of year, it's like the seasonal time of year that we start talking about the calendar for 24. And I heard you say that you're already looking at what the events with the city are. So I think that it would be good to have a planning session of like how we intend to spend our time for 24. You know what I mean? Like both events throughout the calendar year. Just being, you know, proactive. That's, I think, how the Nips and Nibbles kind of started. We were planning backwards of like, what do we want to do for the year? So, if you guys could come with a list of,
Do you want to specifically focus on community events?
I
Or are
think
you
so.
looking for a more general, something for like the committee itself, like for like a kind of timeline for what the committee's going to be working on? Or is this going
Probably.
to be kind of outreach focused?
I'm thinking both, right? Like,
You're running a planning session to find out what the calendar looks like so that we can focus
So
the
that you can
meetings.
piggyback.
Yes.
Piggyback whenever we can.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah.
Events. So that's part of it, but whatever we can do to support the rollout as well.
Certainly, yeah, that was one
Our
thing.
role is-
We looked at this. I was looking at this afternoon, and we were thinking about agendas for next year. And the committee's been so busy the last 2-3 years with developing a plan and implementing a plan, and now it's kind of like, okay, well, we're going to go do it. And it's like, oh, we've got a lot less control over the schedule suddenly. You know, at the committee level, it's like we've got all this stuff that we're going to be working on. So what are we going to be focused on this year? So I think that's a great idea to go back and refocus and see what we're going to be working on.
Good one.
because it would also maybe potentially like ways to have like field trips and things that we could bring the community in to, like, because I know we talked about doing like a trip of the RO plant, right? Like a field trip,
We did, we kind of had a virtual field trip
right?
last month.
Right. I watched the video. I did watch the video. That was my homework, even though I wasn't here.
Presentation.
It was great.
Really good.
But I don't know, maybe like things like that where we can like go out into the community and have like a, I mean, I know that it's hard with Sunshine that we can't, but if we're not talking about something coming up, if we're just talking about, I don't know where I was going with that.
No, absolutely. No, yeah, for sure. I think that's a great focus, and it honestly, it does help me a bit, to be able to get you guys the information that you need, you know, like to give, I see you guys as kind of the guiding lights. You're the voice of the community and that sort of thing. And I know probably sound like a broken record, but if you guys are focused, you know, like it helps me maintain my focus as well on, because there's a million directions you can go at all times, you know, you can get really weeded with a million different things. So if I understand better too, besides, you know, obviously the sustainability plan and things going on kind of internally at the city, understand like where you guys would like to see the most impact. Absolutely, that helps me as well. So
I remember you saying that you went to Philippi Park and did the
oh, you really
oyster-
did watch it. Yeah.
Oh, I totally
yeah.
watched it. So like knowing when those kind of things are coming up so that we could participate, but also we could like get the community to participate in more things like that.
So the Living Shorelines I don't believe was open to the public. It was specifically for sustainability coordinators in the area to like potentially implement. But any events that come across my desk that are a possibility for you guys to attend even virtually, you know, a lot of stuff, because I do have access to the sustainability email, obviously, but also I have Robin's email is tied in, so all the groups that she was a part of that I haven't kind of gotten to, you know, into yet, I still get those emails a lot, and some things do slip through the cracks even to me. So I will, if you would like, I can start forwarding those to the board if you guys, I'm sorry, to the committee if you guys would like that. Is that too?
Yeah, no,
I can't I would probably forward you guys like 10 a week, but maybe I can do like a recap or something.
Yeah, I think that's one thing we can definitely work on is, you know, making sure that the committee's abreast of all the potential events that you guys might like to participate in. And for next month's meeting, I think we can definitely go ahead and bring that back. See what's on the calendar, what's already booked, and maybe do periodic updates on that as we kind of work through the year.
And priorities that come up with the Board of Commissioners too. Any items that you think that we need to know about. I wish that I was staying more connected, but I could only do so much.
Absolutely. I know that we will have probably, all right, check park and plug.
Yeah, that might be a good one for next agenda. Absolutely.
Okay, we'll have just a quick, I know we're running out of time, just a quick, like informational, we had the Park and Plug program, which is a Duke pilot program. And we have to kind of, you know, we have to get final board approval, I think, but they're ending the program and then allowing us to keep the chargers for free. So.
Save someone for the next meeting.
Okay.
We can bring back a status update on the Duke Park and
Yeah,
Plug program.
we'll do that. So, yes.
We
sorry.
didn't hear
Such a
that.
tease, Tommy.
It's going to be a short agenda.
We didn't hear anything.
Sorry, yes. So I'll bring an update on that as well.
And that, like, you know, the things that are informational, but also like the first Living Shoreline that they had in Safety Harbor was participation, which is what Paul Robinson went to. So there are opportunities for the community to participate in things too. So if there's like a
Like a
demonstration
service
garden or a
project or-
demonstration yard or something like that where people can come and, or when we do our first seawall, living seawall.
Oh, interesting, because I just remembered that in working for REI, every store always promoted a couple of times a year community service projects. And some of the service projects were going into parks and pulling out just invasive species, so you get really involved. And really,
If that's the kind of involvement you
I
want,
mean,
there,
it was fun. It was always fun. There was a sack lunch that we'd get sponsored by different local restaurants, and coffee that was always, you know, sponsored by Starbucks or whatever the local coffee shop was. But they'd come for just a couple of hours, and they'd get a T-shirt, get dirty,
oh, that's awesome.
you know, or whatever. You know, they were always different, but I think that getting people into community service projects where they can get together and meet others and at the same time accomplish a goal,
People like that.
recognizing the invasive species, get a little bit of education. We were pulling out ivy all the time. You know, that was the big deal there that was invasive.
Oh, just one idea for next meeting, and maybe this can be a theme for the throughout the spring, or the winter and the spring, I guess. Wow, it's still in October. Is if we can do maybe some preliminary informational updates on some of the action items that we're working on. So has the committee had an update or a presentation on Florida-friendly landscape in the past?
I don't think
No,
so.
no, we have
There's the
not.
nips and nibbles.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Nips and nibbles.
knowledge.
I think it was
and
Knowledge and Nibbles.
Knowledge and
I was like,
Nips and Nibbles sounds like a more fun event, though.
yeah, I know. I was like, what are we doing here? Then?
Perhaps we could bring back the
That
coordinator
sounds
from
great.
Florida Friendly if she's
Florida-friendly
available.
landscapes.
I'll reach out and see if we can see what her availability looks like. She's pretty busy. She's meeting with lots of different cities in the Pinellas County
sure,
area. But
yeah.
if we can get her in sometime, either if not this next meeting coming up, maybe a follow-up meeting. We'll see what her schedule looks like.
Cool.
That would be great, 'cause there were a few of us that went to that, but not everybody that was part of the committee that was there. Okay, staff comments?
Yes. Most important, we do have an update just administratively. On November 7th, we'll be potentially doing some updates to the membership of this committee at the BOC. Obviously, Ms. Gallagher's not here. She's termed out. Thank you very much to her if she's listening in for her participation. And the board will also be removing our second alternate to create 2 openings. So Ms. Bracy won't be able to participate in the reasonable future. So we're going to go ahead and have the board recommend nominating a new person. So if anyone has any folks, Robin, you mentioned that you might have something to discuss, but neighbors, people are interested in sustainability, we'll try and do a push on Connect Tarpon and maybe the city Facebook to see if there's anyone interested. All the applications need to go through the city clerk's office, and then they will evaluate them and provide them for consideration to the board. And they'll get to pick our new committee members.
Do we know the deadline that the applications need to be in for the November 7th meeting?
It would probably be best if we could have it within the next week or so. If we're going to shoot for the November 7th deadline, a hard we don't do this all that often, so I'm kind of guesstimating here, but a hard deadline for our board items is the Wednesday prior to the board meeting. So this week was a board meeting. The 7th is in a few weeks. So within the next week or so would really be ideal.
Okay. Jordan, anything?
Nope. I feel like I did a lot of talking tonight, so I don't have anything specific.
All
You
right.
hit the big one, so.
Committee comments? Robin?
Yes, I've been focusing on getting more people in line for, as we term out and move on and so forth. And people are interested once they know about it, but I'm amazed at how many people don't know that there's this, or someone, oh yeah, the Sustainability Committee, and someone said to me, are they doing anything? And I'm like, oh, yes, they are. They really are. But once people know, and that it's not a huge time commitment, I mean, there's a little bit of backup, but basically it's a doable kind of meeting and a time commitment. But so I would just encourage everyone to talk it up to people, and this one woman's very interested, so hopefully she'll apply. I said, go on, go online, get your name in there. I didn't know it was going to be timely. I'll follow up with her.
Great.
But yeah, I think just promote ourselves,
Absolutely. I mean, you guys are the ones, out there in the community, like talking with people about what you do.
And when
so.
you go around with Karen Lemons too, let people know.
Is there a conflict with having like local businesses involved in that sort of thing? Like if there was someone who owned a local business, I don't know how that works.
The most important requirement is that you have to be a resident of the city.
Okay.
So some business owners live
Live
outside.
elsewhere, yeah.
But as long as you're a resident, you're eligible to apply.
Okay.
Can you guys send us the link
For the application?
for the application? Because it's an online process. I remember doing it. Then, I mean, I could put it out through my social,
Yeah.
and it would just be easier to say, like, here's the link,
Right.
instead of like, oh, you should look into it.
Yeah,
Hey, call the
that's
city
true.
clerk. Yeah,
Work-
absolutely.
Work your way through the website and see if you're still interested.
So are you saying that you can put it on Facebook, on your page?
Yeah.
Okay.
If they can
we
send us
can
the
share it
link,
out,
then
too.
Yeah,
then we
that
can
sounds
be
great.
putting it out there.
Yeah,
Or
we'll definitely
Messenger,
send that
it
over to you.
people.
Thank you.
But I know, okay,
We'll try and
that
find that.
sounds great.
We'll try and find that tomorrow to get that out to you tomorrow, and then forward you Dory's email as well with all those links.
Would
so.
it be possible to have like a little, not a flyer type of thing, but just a electronic thing?
I can probably throw something together for you
Yeah,
guys.
that
to-
has the link on it so that we can share it on our socials and all.
I can probably come up with something really quick, actually.
Yeah.
So yeah, a QR code would be okay, you think, or with both link and a QR code?
Yeah,
Okay.
I think.
Dory's having thoughts.
No, I'm just thinking that it should go on the city's social too.
Yeah, that was part of our plan. We were hoping to get that out there on Facebook for sure.
Cool.
Oh, okay. Okay, cool. Yes.
Yeah, and if everybody gets a chance to just poke around on the website for greenamerica.org, that's a excellent resource. I mean, they talk about almost everything, but they do actually have Green Business Awards, and they have a directory that sends you to socially responsible businesses that use green products, et cetera. So maybe we could model something that's similar to that, just on a local level.
Yeah, I think between that and the I don't remember who puts the Sustany Foundation, I think, puts on the Green Carpet Awards. So we can probably, between those two, I think we'll probably have a great model for us to be able to implement quicker.
Yeah, because I really see that will be, connecting with merchants in the area is going to be a huge boon of partnership if we can invite them to get on board with what we're doing in the city.
Yes.
So we are at that time.
I have one more comment.
yes, right.
So I can't do it this year, but I know that they're looking for volunteers. On November 15th is the Great American Teach-In. I'd mentioned it before. So you go to local schools and talk to them about what you do. So like last year, I went to Tarpon Elementary and brought an electric car and talked to the kids about it. It was so much fun, but I've got to be out of town again.
That's so cool.
You
So,
could do it.
so that may,
we have the EV.
I can put you in contact with the woman at Tarpon.
Okay.
We've had staff participate in Great American Teach-In in the past few years, so if you want to provide the contact information, we can probably disseminate that and see if we've got any folks that are
Great.
interested.
That's super cool.
Awesome.
Okay.
That's all.
Is that everything?
Finito.
Everybody's content? That everything that we needed to discuss has been said? And thank you to anybody that watched. We need recruits for the committee.
So come on in.
We're a great group.
Have fun.
You guys are fun.
Yeah.
I enjoy this.
All right.
Do we need a motion for adjournment?
I make a motion that we adjourn this meeting tonight.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Thank you.
Excellent.
Okay.
Was it-